Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series where we briefly discuss and analyze important news of the day. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. ISRO has successfully launched the Ministry of Earth Sciences funded INSAT-3DS weather forecasting satellite. India's Department of Atomic Energy begins construction phase for contributions to Proton Improvement Plan project. 14th meeting of Conference of Parties to Convention held on the conservation of migratory species of wild animals. Committee on Estimates submitted report on action taken by government on recommendations contained in its 26th report. The centre has raised the authorised capital of Food Corporation of India from Rs 10,000 crore to Rs 21,000. Public Accounts Committee launched financial limits for new service and new instruments of service report. Starting with the first news. ISRO has successfully launched the Ministry of Earth Sciences funded INSAT-3DS weather forecasting satellite. The GSLV F-14 placed INSAT-3DS into the intended geosynchronous transfer orbit and then to a geostationary orbit. It was launched from Satish Dhawan Space Centre in Sriharikota, Andhra Pradesh. Let's now discuss and understand about INSAT-3DS satellite. It is a follow-on mission of third-generation meteorological satellite. It will aid presently operational INSAT-3D and INSAT-3DR, which are dedicated meteorological geostationary satellites. If we talk about its objectives, then it is to monitor Earth's surface, carry out oceanic observations and its environment, provide a vertical profile of various meteorological parameters of the atmosphere, provide data collection and data dissemination capabilities, and to provide satellite-aided search and rescue services. Its onboard payloads include imager payload, sounder payload, data relay transponder, and search and rescue services transponder. Moreover, Indian industries have significantly contributed to its making. Further, let's also discuss about GSLV F-14. GSLV F-14 is 16th flight of India's Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle or GSLV and 10th flight with indigenous cryogenic stage. GSLV is a 3-stage launch vehicle having a lift-off mass of 420 tons. First stage comprises a solid propellant motor, second stage comprises earth storable propellants, and third stage is a cryogenic stage. GSLV can launch spacecraft capable of performing communications, navigation, Earth resource surveys, and any other proprietary mission. Now let's understand about Geosynchronous Transfer Orbit or GTO. Geosynchronous Transfer Orbit is a special kind of orbit used to get from one orbit to another. To attain geosynchronous and also geostationary Earth orbits, a spacecraft is launched into an elliptical orbit with an apopsis altitude of about 37,000 km. This is called a GTO. Lastly, if we talk about geostationary orbit or GEO, then satellites in GEO circle Earth above the equator from west to east by traveling at the same rate as Earth. This makes satellites in GEO appear to be stationary over a fixed position.
Moving on to the next news. India's Department of Atomic Energy begins construction phase for contributions to Proton Improvement Plan project. Before we start, let us first understand about the Proton Improvement Plan. Proton Improvement Plan or PIP-II is the first particle accelerator on the United States soil at the Fermi Lab, which is going to be built with significant contributions from international partners. Institutions from India, France, Italy, Poland and the United Kingdom are part of the collaboration. India will further contribute $140 million worth components. It will further power the world's most high-energy neutrino beam to the under-construction Deep Underground Neutrino Experiment or DUNE at Long Baseline Neutrino Facility. Now let us further talk about the particle accelerator. Particle accelerators propel charged particles such as protons, atomic nuclei and electrons at high speeds considerably closer to the speed of light. These accelerators feature 4 principal components. These are source for producing particles, composite device to speed them up, metallic tubes in vacuum to allow free movement, and electromagnets to steer the beam particles. Further talking about some large particle accelerators, these include starting with Large Hadron Collider or LHC. It is the most powerful accelerator which is located at the CERN in Geneva. Its significant achievements are discovery of Higgs boson, previously unknown hadrons. Stanford Linear Accelerator Center, USA. It is the longest linear particle accelerator in the world whose significant achievements are the discovery of quark and tau leptons. Lastly, the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility or ESRF. It is located in Grenoble, France and is home to the most intense hard X-ray source in the world. Now let us also understand the significance of the particle accelerators. Colliding subnuclear particles near speed of light, which allows search for new particles and forces and understanding origins of universe, is further important for the fundamental research. It is also important for the health sector for sterilizing medical equipment and synthesizing radiopharmaceuticals for cancer diagnosis and therapy. It detects trace chemical elements in the air, water, or soil, making it important for the environment. Lastly, for the industrial sector, it further improves the durability of materials.
In our next news, 14th meeting of Conference of Parties to Convention held on the conservation of migratory species of wild animals. Let's first know about Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. The Convention on CMS, also known as the Bonn Convention, remains a pivotal global platform for the preservation of migratory species. It has two appendices, Appendix 1, which lists migratory species threatened with extinction, and Appendix 2, which lists migratory species that would significantly benefit from international cooperation. Moreover, India is also a party to conservation of migratory species of wild animals. Coming back to the COP14, COP14 concluded in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, marked a significant milestone in the conservation efforts for migratory species. Here are the highlights. Under the agenda of migratory species conservation, COP14 introduced the Samarkand Strategic Plan for Migratory Species for 2024 to 2032. Additionally, new global guidelines addressing the impacts of light pollution on migratory species were established. Next is species-specific mandates, under which 14 species added in CMS appendices such as Eurasian lynx, Pala's cat, and sand tiger shark. And new concerted actions for 6 species, which include chimpanzee, straw-colored fruit bat, and blue shark. And lastly, COP14 initiated 3 new action plans for aquatic species: the Atlantic humpback dolphin, the hawksbill turtle, and the angel shark. Other milestone is for migratory birds, in which COP14 saw an agreement on the Central Asian Flyway covering 30 range states. This agreement includes the establishment of a coordinating unit in India, emphasizing regional cooperation in bird conservation. For the first time, COP14 unveiled the State of the World's Migratory Species Report, shedding light on the status and challenges faced by migratory species globally. A significant stride was the launch of the new Global Partnership on Ecological Connectivity, or GPEC, aimed at maintaining, enhancing, and restoring ecological connectivity for migratory species. Belgium, France, Monaco, and Uzbekistan have pledged their support to GPEC. Lastly, India was recognized at COP14 under the Migratory Species Champion Program for its exemplary contributions to the conservation of migratory birds in the Central Asian Flyway.
Moving on to the next news. Committee on Estimates submitted report on action taken by the government on recommendations contained in its 26th report. In its 26th report, the Committee on Estimates gave various recommendations on the subject of evaluation of electric vehicle policy. Let us first start by talking about the electronic vehicle, or EVs. It is a type of vehicle that uses one or more electric motors for propulsion instead of an internal combustion engine. Compared to the traditional vehicles, electronic vehicles produce fewer emissions and are more energy efficient. Additionally, till November 2022, more than 18 lakh electronic vehicles are being used on Indian roads. Further, let us talk about the steps taken for the promotion of electronic vehicles. Faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles in India scheme, further speeding up the process. The implementation of the Production-Linked Investment, or PLI scheme, which is the National Program on Advanced Chemistry Cell Battery Storage. The PLI scheme for automobile and auto component, reduction in the GST on electric vehicles from 12% to 5%. Lastly, the amendment to Model Building Bylaws 2016 to establish charging stations. The faster adoption of electronic vehicles is currently facing some challenges. Those include the poor charging infrastructure and the higher upfront cost adds to the concern. Also, the safety concerns and the scarce battery technology further adding to the concern. For the issues, there have also been some recommendations, namely, framing of a strong national policy framework on electronic vehicles has been recommended. The extension of PIP-II scheme beyond 2024 for 2 more years, framing the comprehensive plan for rollout of nationwide public charging network, promotion of technologies other than electronic vehicles such as flex fuel and hydrogen ICE, And lastly, a national strategy for the disposal and reuse of electric vehicles' batteries.
Moving on to the next news. The centre has raised the authorised capital of Food Corporation of India from Rs 10,000 crore to Rs 21,000. The authorised capital is the amount of share capital which a company is authorised to issue by its Memorandum of Association. The company cannot raise more than the amount of capital as specified in the Memorandum of Association. The authorised capital is also called nominal or registered capital. Enhanced authorised capital would help the Food Corporation of India embark upon modernising storage facilities, improving transportation networks, and adopting advanced technologies. Enhanced authorised capital and further infusion will also lessen the interest burden and affect the subsidy of centre positively. Further now, let's discuss and understand about Food Corporation of India or FCI. It is a public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution set up under the Food Corporation Act of 1964. Its mandate is to undertake procurement of food grains at a minimum support price to protect the interest of farmers, distribution of food grains throughout the country for public distribution system, and to maintain a satisfactory level of operational and buffer stocks of food grains to ensure national food security. Centre provides equity to the FCI for working capital requirements and the creation of capital assets. Also, FCI resorts to cash credit, short-term loans, ways and means to match the gap in fund requirements. There also have been taken some key initiatives to enhance the effectiveness of FCI. These are purchasing lab equipment and developing a software platform for quality checking labs, studies on shelf life and pest management for fortified rice for efficient food security management system, and the implementation of e-office has made FCI a less paper organization.
Moving on to the last news for the day. Public Accounts Committee Financial Limits for New Service and New Instruments of Service report was released. Let us first start by talking about the report. The report approved a proposal by the Ministry of Finance to raise financial limits for new services and new instrument service. It was last revised in 2006. The limit is applied whenever expenditure provisions are augmented through the appropriation of funds from the savings available within the same sections of grants or appropriation. Expenditure beyond financial limits can be done through supplementary proposals from the ministries or departments for which parliamentary approval is necessary. Now let us talk about the key highlights of the report for new service and new instrument of service. The new service refers to the expenditure arising out of a new policy decision not brought to notice of the Parliament earlier, including a new activity or a new investment. Whereas the new instrument service refers to a relatively large expenditure arising out of the expansion of an existing policy. The new service's main object head is the machinery and equipment, ICT equipment, building and structure infrastructure assets, arms and ammunition, and land. Whereas the new instrument services object head is the investment, loans and advances and subsidies. The new services reporting limit is above Rs 50 crore to Rs 100 crore. Whereas the new instrument services reporting limit is up to 20% of the original appropriation or up to Rs 100 crore, whichever at the time is higher. Lastly, let us take a look at its rationale for revision. In the terms of the economic growth, due to expansion in GDP growth that is 6 to 7% on YOY basis, the budget size is also expected to grow. Because of low financial limits for new service or new instrument service, the expenditure prompted a rise in supplementary proposals, further delaying the project execution. Enhanced monitoring by defining new service or new instrument service uniformly at standardized object head would further enable effective scrutiny by CAG. The personality in news for today is Vasudev Balwant Phadke. Recently, the Home Minister paid tribute to freedom fighter Vasudev Balwant Phadke on his death anniversary. Now let's have a look at his key contributions. He was modern India's first revolutionary, because of which he is regarded as the father of the armed struggle for India's freedom. He is also said to be the inspiration for Bankim Chandra's Anandamath. During the Great Famine, Phadke toured the Deccan fomenting disaffection against the British and pleading for Swaraj. Vasudev Balwant Phadke formed a band of about 300 Bhils, Kolis, Ramoshis and Dhangras to attack the British strongholds. He also established Aikyavardhani Sabha and the first school of national education in Pune. Lastly, he exhibited the values of patriotism, leadership, and courage.
As we conclude today's main news, let's take a look at some quick updates. India and Taiwan signed a migration and mobility agreement that will facilitate the employment of Indian workers in Taiwan. Though India and Taiwan do not have formal diplomatic ties, the bilateral trade relations have been growing deeper. The total investment of Taiwanese enterprises in India is around $4 billion, covering areas including footwear, machinery, automobile components, and ICT products. Agriculture and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, or APIDA, has taken agricultural exports to $26.7 billion in the fiscal year 2022-23. In 2022-23, India's agricultural exports reached $53.1 billion, with APIDA contributing a significant 51% of India's agri exports. APIDA was established under the Agricultural and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority Act 1985. Arogya Doctors on Wheels initiative is launched for the Udhampur district of Jammu and Kashmir. It is an artificial intelligence-driven teleclinic to provide healthcare facilities in far-flung areas of the region. Herein, a patient can narrate his illness or complaint in native language, and the AI doctor understands the language and responds to the patient in the same language. Asteroids named Iris and Massalia were found to emit a unique wavelength that unambiguously indicated the presence of water molecules. This discovery was made by studying SOFIA's observations. SOFIA was NASA's airborne astronomical observatory that was retired in 2022. The 58th Gyanpith Award for the year 2023 has been awarded to Jagadguru Swami Rambhadracharya Ji for Sanskrit and Sri Gulzar for Urdu. Gyanpith Award has been given by the Bharatiya Gyanpith annually since 1965 for outstanding contributions to Indian literature. Bharatiya Gyanpith, formally established in 1944, is one of the premier literary organizations and publication houses in India. Indian Space Research Organization is organizing a special program for school children called Young Scientist Program, or Yuvika. Its key objective is to impart basic knowledge on space science, space technology, and space applications to the younger students, and to encourage more students to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics-based research and aligned careers. Sale of cotton candy has been banned in Tamil Nadu after samples reveal use of toxic industrial dye, or rhodamine B, as artificial coloring agent. It is prohibited in the food industry by the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Rhodamine B is an organic chloride salt used as a coloring agent for dyeing in textile, paper, leather, and paint industries. Efforts are being made to get UNESCO to declare the ongoing annual Paruveta Utsavam as an intangible cultural heritage. The festival starts annually on Makar Sankranti at Sri Narasimha Swami Temple at Ahobilam in Andhra Pradesh and lasts for about 40 to 45 days. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.